Hey everyone, welcome back to the Homestead. Today we're going to be doing a video kind of reflecting on the past 2 years and what we've learned. And this video is going to be a top 10 video on things that you should consider before you start your homestead up, so that you don't waste a lot of time, money, and energy doing things that will waste your time, money, and energy. So let's get into the video. All right, guys, so the first thing that I would do when starting a new homestead, you just moved in, you got your family settled on school and work, and everything's kind of in order. I am not going to recommend that you wait for a year, because honestly, who the heck has patience for that kind of thing? Now, if you see an area that looks like it's flooded, you might not want to plant a garden there, but for the most part, you can look at the area and the slopes and get a general idea. You might have to do some work to make it work in the future, but man, I would not recommend waiting a year like that. And that's not even a step. That's just how I'm introducing myself here. So the first step is one that I'm very passionate about, and that is planting fruit and nut trees around the property. Fruit trees and nut trees, they're not going to give you fruit and nuts for several years. It might take up to 3 years. It might take up to 10, depending on the type of tree. So the sooner you can get it in, the better. They say the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. Well, the second best time's today. So find fruit and nut trees that work and grow in your area and plant them. And if you want to experiment. I'm trying some things that people say won't grow here. I don't believe in the words "they won't grow here," so maybe I've got to do a little extra work to make sure that they thrive and give me fruit. But I'm excited to try new and exotic things that I can't just find at the grocery store. That's why you see me growing pawpaws and persimmons and all these fig trees that are behind me in our fig orchard. It's because I'm excited about trying new things and growing them and seeing if they work. And you know what? If they don't work, it's okay. I'm not out too much. But I would have been out on a great opportunity had they've been able to grow and develop. So once you have those fruit trees, they're going to be a low maintenance, easy source of food for you, your family, and your livestock. So plant a few fruit trees. That's step one. All right, so the next step, which I think is a very important step, and it's one that we definitely skipped, and I think we had a lot of extra stress and a lot of frustration because we skipped that step. That's right, goats. You'll probably hear them in the background for most of this part. But the step that I'm talking about is not having the proper infrastructure for your animals. So my wife, my beautiful wife, had a goal of getting alpacas or llamas. She loved them. She thought they were the coolest thing. Every time she saw one, she wanted one. So we actually purchased 4 alpacas before we even moved onto the property. We didn't have a shelter for them. It was February of 2022. We didn't have a shelter for them. We didn't have water set up. We barely put together fencing, which we really did a poor job putting it together. But we basically bought a little Tractor Supply carport type shelter for them for like $400, and we thought we were good to go until we were able to get more infrastructure put in place. What we did not realize is that there can be wind, there can be things that come through, and they just tore our structures apart. We ended up buying so many pop-up tents, just trying to get them through until we could get our infrastructure put in, which if you've been trying to get infrastructure put in, we've got this awesome little metal barn here. It took us several months for it to actually get here and assemble it, and we also had to clear the trees that were here in order to get that put in. Now that it's here, we're doing much better. Our animals are much happier. We have a much stronger peace of mind. And then this last summer, we actually got electricity and water brought up here as well, so that we have to do even less to take care of the animals, and it's been huge. So making sure that you have the right infrastructure, that doesn't necessarily mean you gotta go and spend $11,000 on a barn, okay? You don't have to do that. You can build your own structures, and when we get into one of my next steps, I'll show you some of the structures that we've built. but you don't need to break the bank on it. But I think it's important before you start shopping, even if you find a great deal, because guess what? You're gonna find a great deal on animals. It's just gonna happen. People have life circumstances and they have to move. You know, you're gonna find great deals on animals, but you wanna make sure that you're a good steward of your animals and that you're taking care of them in a way that you would wanna be taken care of, and you don't want to abuse them. So the best way you can do that is making sure you have the right infrastructure in place. That way you're not killing your animals. So that's step 2. Make sure your infrastructure is good. All right, everybody. The next tip is tip number 3, and that is recycle, recycle, recycle. So homesteading can be a very expensive venture. And if you think you're gonna get into homesteading to become YouTube millionaires, I think you got something else coming, because you know that money, although it's nice, doesn't even begin to cost even what it takes to make the YouTube videos. So you've got to look for ways in order to save money, or you're gonna spend everything that you've got real quick. One of the things that you can do is look for opportunities to reuse and repurpose things. So as you guys can see, our chicken coop behind us here, this chicken coop, we did have to purchase some of the wood. I'm not gonna be a faker and tell you it was 100% reclaimed, but what we were able to do was we had a friend at work who was tearing down a deck. They rebuilt a newer deck, and they wanted to, you know, donate their wood to us. So we found that this deck wood actually is, you know, it's water treated, it's sturdy, it helps block the wind, and it made an excellent chicken coop for us. It's a little messy at the moment, like all of our things, because we're real and we're not fake. So being able to see what it would look like when you can repurpose something, it just makes you feel good, because you know that stuff probably would have been burned or thrown away, but now it's a extremely sturdy chicken coop. I'll show you a few of the other ones. So my boys acquired this hog growing pen from our neighbors. They weren't using it, so that's something we were able to move. It wasn't really repurposed because it still had the same purpose. And then you guys can see some of our pig pens, and you looking over at our friend Ogre here. Ogre's a big muddy mess. This guy's nuts. But we made our first 55-gallon drum pig shelter, and it held up so well that we actually made another. It's a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. This other pig shelter is a little bit bigger, and it can actually hold multiple pigs. Let me stop and show you the inside. So as you all can see here, we got a little piece of deck wood that was being thrown out at my work, and although it's not completely windproof, you can see light coming through. This gives them shelter from the rain. This is an old door off of a machine at my work that they were throwing away. So overall, aside from some wood, this was a very free, very sturdy pig shelter. See how we're repurposing some old plastics for our watering system. Lena, stop. Stop being so bad. You're gonna have babies soon, aren't you? You're gonna have babies soon, aren't you? So this is a little bit of a combination of saving some things. So we had the shelvings from a racking system that were being thrown away. We basically just put a tarp over it and put some siding on, and that is a solid little shelter for our little Lena here. We actually made 2 of these, and they work out really well. So our last full-length video we made was on our watering system, but we've repurposed an IBC tote. We repurposed the stand. I think this was broken. It was in the dumpster at my work. So that is 2 other things. I think this is a very important one for homesteaders, is learning how to build things and recycle and repurpose things to save them money. All right, so the next step, step 4, is don't be a know-it-all. You know, nothing could be worse than not being humble and trying to take advice from people that actually have some experience and knowledge on how to do things. One of the very first things I did once I moved here is I reached out to some local experts trying to find out what things grew well in my area, you know, what people are doing, what's having success and what's failing. And I learned a ton. But until it's kind of like going to school, going to a university. You learn how to learn at a university. You don't actually learn anything, but you learn how to learn. And I think that is very, very much true in the University of Homesteading. Is you need to humble yourself, learn how to get new information, learn how to apply that information so that you can be successful. Like what we have behind me is kind of a representation of, I don't want to say a true failure, but it was a failure that I wasn't very happy about. But because I didn't pretend I was a know-it-all, I'm taking the lessons I learned from this experience to apply it. That'll be one of my concluding tips as well. So making sure that you're humble, you're not a know-it-all, and you're teachable is one of the biggest possible steps you can have. All right, there's that tip. All right, so this one's a little bit personal because I definitely fell into this trap. So tip number 5 is pacing yourself. When we moved here, we had a lot of ideas, a lot of goals, and we wanted it all done right away. And because of that, I think we had extra failures. You've just got to slow down a little bit and tackle one thing at a time. If you get stuck, that's fine. Get stuck, move it on. But one of the big traps that I got myself into, you know, when we moved to this property, there was garbage everywhere on top of all the things that we wanted to do. And I remember like mapping out in my head every day all the things that we needed to do, and then not being able to do it because just mentally I was blocked. Like I was working so many hours at work. I didn't want to come home and spend all my free time, you know, doing these tedious chores. I wanted to do the fun stuff. I didn't want to do the picking up the dump truck worth of roofing shingles that were left behind, or clearing the trees that had fallen over in the storm. You know, I wanted to build chicken coops and have pigs have babies and grow all my fruit trees. And because I wasn't able to tackle some of this stuff because of this mental block of being overwhelmed, I really didn't do much. I feel like we could have accomplished a whole lot more. And my children and my wife even reached that point where they're just kind of overwhelming. So for this tip, don't get overwhelmed and just try to tackle one thing at a time. All right, the next tip, and I know I've briefly talked about this a little bit. The next tip is don't get into homesteading thinking it's going to be your ticket to becoming rich and famous. It's not going to work out 99.9% of the time. You're doing it for different reasons. You're doing it for the self-sufficient factor. You're doing it to maybe close that gap between the supply chain and what you need to keep your family, you know, healthy and fed. The other things really don't matter. And if you have to have the income from YouTube, or I think you can make money on Instagram or any of these other platforms in order to be successful and happy, then you're probably going to be in for a really hard time. I had a really good conversation with some folks over at Bluebelly Acres. Their breed stock is where we got our IPPs from, and they're just starting out a YouTube channel, and I think they had similar goals to us. They're not trying out there to make it money, but they're finding in the very beginning stages of homesteading and YouTubing that they're finding it difficult to get subscribers. They're finding it difficult to get viewers. They're finding all of these challenges that most of us who've ever started a YouTube channel face, and they're realizing that it's not an overnight success. If you want to use YouTube as a revenue stream, just be prepared. It's going to take you years. You might have an awesome personality, like some of these channels that I've seen just shoot up, and people will gravitate you and want to know about your family and your life and all that good stuff. And you could be one of those people, but those people have a talent. I'm not gonna say I'm the most talented guy. I can talk, I can speak, I can, give direction, but I'm not the best YouTuber, and my channel can be boring and vague, and people might not be interested in the content, and I'm okay with that, because for me, a little bit of extra revenue is just an upside to the experience, being able to document what we're doing, being able to let my family that's back in Arizona see the progress that's being made on the homestead. And it gives me something to be proud of. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing it to be, a YouTube millionaire, I got some news for you. You can do it, but it's going to be a lot of hard work. You're going to be working just as hard as those people that are busting their butts out in the real world with businesses trying to make money, because that's what it is. It's a business. So there's that tip for you. On to the next one. All right, so the next step I think is very important. It's the most important step for any homesteader. You have to go out and buy a brand new tractor. Otherwise, you're not a real homesteader. Just kidding. But I'm kind of not kidding. What this step is this step is kind of depending on, I don't want to say your income, but I'm going to say your time management. So if you live on a homestead where this is your sole job, you're doing this 100% of the time to make as much profit as you can, and you need to save every penny in order to make this happen, having a tractor payment or going out and buying a tractor with some of the disposable income you have may not be a good idea for you, because you're going to be out there working all day, all the time anyway. You can just put in the man hours and the labor to get some of these tasks done. However, this isn't just tractor talk here. This is talk for me. I have a very demanding job. It's not demanding physically, but it's very demanding on my time. And because of that demand on my time, I don't have the time to come out and, haul dirt across the property, move containers, move bales of hay the way that some people that's their only job have. I just don't have that. So in order to still be able to accomplish a lot of the tasks that we want to accomplish, we've got to get some help with equipment. Now, tractors serve so many purposes. I'm not going to be a tractor salesman here, but I do highly recommend that if you're in a similar situation to us, get a tractor. The tractor has attachments, like I'll show you guys this one over here. So that's a bush hog. You guys can see it right there. So the bush hog, it can take what would take me a month of cleaning and weed eating and chopping. It would take me about a month to get some of those tasks done. And because I have this tractor and we can hook the bush hog up to it, I can get that done in a few minutes. What would take me months will take me minutes. So from a time perspective, I can go work, I can make the money to pay for the tractor, and then I can come to the homestead and I can get it done in such a shorter period of time. Now, you may not be in the same boat, but this goes to the simplest of equipment. Like if you're going to be, feeding your pigs and you're tired of, hauling stuff around, get a wagon, save your back. I don't want to just necessarily say throw a bunch of money at your homestead, but if you don't have the time, this is a great way to utilize the most precious resource you have, which is time, by getting equipment that'll make that time go so much faster and so much better for you. All right, the next step, and you got to have a few things in order to make this step work, which is, kids and a wife or a parent or an uncle or somebody, but making homesteading a family thing. We have 4 kids, and each of the kids have different jobs that they need to do. We got Jackson out here taking care of the pig area, trying to improve it. Riker's, burning some raised bed weeds for me. The girls were out feeding the chickens and taking care of the goats earlier. We all have our jobs that we do, and that makes it a lot better. Just kind of making it part of the culture of your family. Now, like with any kid, you're going to get resistance. You're going to get, the absent-minded, but it is helping them grow and develop. And they're developing skills that they would not be able to develop otherwise. So utilizing your family, I call them my little tax write-offs, but right, Jackson? Sure. He doesn't know what that even means. Utilizing your family, helping them grow, will help your homestead grow as well. So if you don't have kids and you're all by yourself, this step may not be the best for you. Maybe just get a family or something. So, all right, there's tip number 8. All right, the 9th tip. I actually have what's remaining of it behind me is one of my in-ground vegetable gardens. The 9th tip is grow as much food as you possibly can. You are going to be surprised at how much and how capable you are going to be at growing your own food. I absolutely suck at growing vegetables. I'm horrible at it. Horrible at it. First year, my boys just went around and planted seeds in this kind of grass back here, and there's no way, like not a single corn grew because it was choked out. So I learned, I was like, okay, so then the next year, last year, I tilled it, and I was able to get so much more out of it. We still had a very weak harvest. Aside from cucumbers, I want to say, and maybe some tomatoes, everything was a pretty colossal failure, which is going to be the last tip. I'll get to that in a second. But getting as much food as you possibly can is important. That's why if you like pork, raise pigs. I never thought I'd love pigs as much as I love pigs. They're probably my favorite animal. They're smart, they are funny, they are frankly delicious, and I really enjoy every single part of it. I also really enjoy our chickens. You know, we had a recent video kind of go famous. Tom the turkey came out of his morning routine coming out of the chicken coop and really put on a good show for everybody. But chickens, they provide us not only a ton of eggs, but they also can provide us meat. They can help us control pests, so they'll eat insects. Actually, next year, I'm gonna be integrating chickens into my garden area in an attempt to control the caterpillars that took over the whole field basically and ruined most of the corn. But that's just something that I'm going to be doing. You can utilize your animals to help you make better choices and have better product coming out of your garden. The chicken and pig manure, I'm going to till that into the soil back here, and it's going to be an added boost to help my vegetables. So growing and learning how to make and produce your own food is key to being successful as a homesteader. I have no desire to be off the grid 100%. I have no desire to be 100% self-sufficient, but I wouldn't mind being 25% self-sufficient, not needing and relying on stores for all of our needs. And the feeling of having a freezer full of meat, a freezer full of corn, a freezer full of food that you can enjoy with your family, a never-ending supply of eggs that'll give you protein you need, and if you have excess, you can feed it to your pigs or other animals. These are very important, and that's what I'm striving for. All right, so I briefly mentioned it already. The final step is fail. You know, it's simple. You need to fail. And the reason you need to fail is because by those failures, that's education, and you learn from those things. Those mistakes on a larger scale could cost you a lot more. So taking your opportunity, doing things small, learning from those mistakes, and growing from them, it's going to be a free education that you can't get any other way. You know, this is a good example behind me. We have a beehive. The bees ended up flying away. We weren't 100% ready for bees, and I think that had we had more time and resources, we would have spent more time and resources and done it, but we're learning that there are some things that require more from us than we can provide right now. And that was a little bit of a hard lesson. We still have the equipment, we're still gonna do it again, but we're gonna learn from it. We're gonna be stronger next time. I planted quite a few different types of fruit trees here and nut trees that couldn't handle our weather, whether it was because it was too cold or it couldn't handle the humidity and the bacteria that grows from it. But I was able to learn from those, and I made those mistakes lessons that are gonna teach me what to do in the future. So hopefully you guys enjoyed these 10 tips. They were very helpful for me. I wish I would have had them, but I was able to learn and grow by following all of these things, and some of them I followed the opposite, and that's why I'm able to give you this tip. So if you liked the video, subscribe to our channel, follow us on our journey, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye.